How's everybody doing this morning? Been watching the chat for a couple of minutes here, folks. Let me see if I can get that a little more straightened up here. There we go. All right, we're good to go. How is everybody? What is today? Tuesday? Happy Tuesday. I lose track sometimes. Black Cat Whirligig. Y'all can't be doing this to me. It's too early in the morning. Hello from Texas. Jen Lynn, hello. First Waffen, thank you for being here. Big Red, thank you. First Waffen, we're glad to see you in here. People have been asking. Hatch, how you doing, brother? Swamp Bottom Living is here. Okay, so this morning we are going to be talking about 5 ways and 5 places to essentially be a cheapskate. I'm cheap, folks. I ain't gonna lie to you. My wife is cheap and she calls me a cheapskate. And we'll get into that. We're going to cover a few things going on in the news as well and cover some questions from yesterday. Good morning, American Trucker's wife. How are you doing? And Eric also. Sad day for Canada. Pew Pew says, it is, however, it looks like conservatives are starting to take the country back over. We'll see long term, but Trudeau lost some ground that he was not expecting to lose through the elections in Canada. So we'll see. You know, again, I don't place a ton of faith in the voting system right now, but that's just me. Okay, so I have a quick question for everybody in the chat before we get started. Did mainstream media all of a sudden get amnesia? Why are we not talking about General Milli Vanilli and the treason that was uncovered just last week? Why is this being completely blanked by mainstream media on both sides of the aisle? It's not like there's more important news going on right now, folks. I mean, stuff happens every day, and I'm not saying the news that we're seeing is not important, but where's the talk about General Milli? Are you kidding me? The dude's a traitor. They are straight burying it on purpose, in my opinion. So yesterday, Robert's all mad about the voting in Canada. Yeah, First Waffen, we've definitely been praying. Somebody asked yesterday for me to explain in a very simple explanation what the Great Reset is, what it means. So you folks in chat can help me out in case I missed anything, okay? So the Great Reset is a plan to eventually force us into an all-digital currency. They want to bring in, and they're already doing it actually, social credit scores. So in other words, your footprint online is going to determine whether or not you potentially qualify for a loan, for a loan from a bank. Maybe you say something that's too conservative online and this is going to disqualify you. You get the point. It's a push for artificial intelligence and digital surveillance on the level of 1984. If you've not read that, you need to go read that. It is a huge push for globalism as a movement. People on the other side of the aisle that champion, the idea of a great reset, they say this is a conspiracy theory. However, these meetings have actually taken place. All of the transcripts are online from these meetings where world leaders have actually met through the UN and otherwise. There are 2 agendas floating around. You folks know what I'm talking about as well there. So it is not a theory at this point. It is just a conspiracy. That's what I would argue this morning. There have been actual meetings. In layman's terms, it's a digital system that monitors you 24/7 and ties everything together. They want to know everything. They want to know where your money's being spent. They want to know your medical records, etc. They want to know about your social media footprint, everything. It's about total control, in my opinion. So that is my explanation, but you're welcome to go back through the chat replay. I'm sure there's some great stuff there as well. World Economic Forum. Thank you, Becca. I was treading water on that. I couldn't remember the name. It is Night of the Living Prepper makes an excellent point. It is not just about digital currency. It is about property rights. It is, in my opinion, about forcing people out of rural America, or if you're in another country, out of the rural lands in your country and into centralized cities where they can monitor you. Some people don't know this, but in China, in certain areas, it is monitored so heavily, and they have a food shortage or whatever, overpopulation, that if you're in a restaurant and you go to throw food away, they actually have cameras on the trash bins. And if they determine you threw too much food away, you're going to get a ticket in the mail because of the facial recognition and everything. It's crazy. And that is unfortunately coming at some point to the United States of America, or the divided states of America, however you want to look at it. Texas is over here like, we ain't united, son. They want to control food, money, medical, everything. Exactly, River Rat. They want to control everything. So yesterday, somebody asked, is Texas where the revolution will begin? I don't know. I think it needs to be where the revolution begins. When I think about the American spirit, and this is not to diss the other 49 states, there are patriots everywhere, but Texas is really just a mishmash of different cultures and different traditions. But the one thing they've always had in common up until recently when they started turning purple is they didn't take crap. They had each other's backs. They embodied what I believe the American spirit is. But Texas is starting to change. So it just depends on how many citizens there are in Texas. I know there are plenty, but are there enough that are fed up with what is going on? It's been a historically rowdy state. I mean, let's be real, right? The Alamo, it's a huge state, and in many ways, it's an independent state. I got an email late last week. I want to tell you folks this real quick. And the guy was Latino. He said, the people that are crossing over, we have respect for them. There's like a mutual respect. But this guy did it the right way. He came over, he got his citizenship. And he said he goes out last week and he's looking around in his backyard, and behind his shed he sees 13 immigrants sitting there trying to sleep for the night. And he said they were peaceful. He said, I asked him to leave. They left. He said, but it is becoming a huge problem in Texas. Has been for a while. He said, but it's getting to the point now, he was telling me, where groups of citizens, armed citizens, are starting to form in Texas and try and put an end to it themselves. So it blew my mind. I can't, being this far away from Texas, I cannot imagine a day where I walk outside and there are, a dozen or so people squatting in my backyard, because I wouldn't have been so nice about it, to be honest. But it's just to the point now where they're so used to seeing it, I think, in Texas. I looked into the recalls yesterday, and a few of you left comments. Somebody said, have you thought that maybe this stuff is just out of date, that they're pulling off shelves at Walmart? The problem is, after we streamed yesterday, I had 2 or 3 different emails from around the country saying it's happening at my Walmart as well. So the chances are very low that the same medications would be expiring, at different Walmarts at the same time. I could not find specific recalls on most of the medicine that's being reported to me. It seems to be cold and flu, stuff like Theraflu, Emergency, if you folks are familiar with that. Seems to be a lot of that missing, being purposely pulled, which leads us to door number 3, which is a scary door, to be honest with you. Winter is coming up. Flu season is upon us. It is a very scary thought to think that people would purposely pull the stuff you needed to treat the cold and flu at home, because this then is going to force you into, the second option, the only other option, and that is to seek out a clinic or a doctor or something like this, maybe an emergency room. And if we get to the point, good morning, Sophia, if we get to the point where they are mandating that you have the whiskey shot before you walk through the door, this really forces your hand. I mean, are you going to sit at home with nothing to treat, the standard flu with? Or are you going to, at this point, submit and go into the doctor's office? So that's just a theory. I don't know that to be a fact, folks. But there's really no other reason for it at this point. I've also heard, little hack here, I've also heard that pineapple juice is excellent if you are fighting, Matt just mentioned, mucus or something like that. If you're fighting that, if you're trying to get over pneumonia or something, okay? So that's just something to think about. Home remedies are great, Timothy, but people have to research them. A lot of people don't know about the home remedies. My wife is getting to the point now where she's staying on top of the home remedy stuff, because she's noticed in our local stores, she's going in and there's a lot of stuff missing. She actually checks the medicines and the supplements now before she goes over to the groceries, which looks like The Walking Dead, the grocery aisles. So anyway, we are going to get into how to prep like a cheapskate. Now I want to show y'all something real quick. It's starting to get cold here. So how do you know if you're a long-term supporter here at Prepper Nation? Well, if you know what this thing is right here, son. Does anybody remember this? If you remember this, you've been here for a while. It's almost time to break that bad boy out. You newbies are like, I have no idea what this cat's doing. So there you go. All right. So the first, again, the top 5 here. Yes, the hat, Missy remembers. The beanie, Dawn remembers. So thrift stores. A lot of preppers sleep on thrift stores. Some of the coolest preps that I have come from, Salvation Army stores, Goodwills, etc., thrift stores. The more low-key the thrift store, the better. So, I mean, in reality, folks, you want wool, you want stuff like that in the winter, and a lot of times you can find this stuff very cheap, again, at your local thrift store. It doesn't matter if you're 6'4" and you got a beard, you're a bearded dude, hopefully, and you're sitting on your couch and you look like one of the Golden Girls wearing a lady's jacket. If it's wool, it's wool. It's going to keep you warm. Pick it up for a few bucks. But with thrift stores, I mean, it's heavily the clothes. The clothes is the main thing, and the coats and stuff. Sometimes you'll find other cool stuff. I found CB radios there and stuff like that. So if you know what you're doing, you can pick it up dirt cheap and work on communications and stuff as well. Number 2, your dollar stores. And I've brought an example here. I'm going to show you folks what you can get at the dollar stores. So beyond food, I mean, you can obviously get good food there if you shop around, but there are other things like duct tape and stuff. Here's what my wife did a while back. She spent $20, which she's also a cheapskate. So I'm like, you spent $20 on anything? She got 20 of these plastic baskets. This has nothing but vitamins in it, okay? And what she actually did is she went through the cabinets. It was painstaking, son. She went through the cabinets, the medicines and things like this. And she starts organizing this stuff. So we have one of these bins now that has like sunburn cream, bee sting stuff in it. So if somebody gets a bee sting or sunburn, she can just pull the thing out and everything's there, ready to go. She has one that has like bandages and Band-Aids and Neosporin. This one is vitamins. But I mean, she did this in order to save time and to get organized. She is the organized one of us of the couple here. I don't know. We're not like Brad Jeline or whatever they call him in Hollywood, but she's the organized one. Me, not so much. Mame says she has bins like this too. It does save time. At first I laughed. I'm like, oh my God, but then the first time a kid needs a Band-Aid, and it used to be we would dig around, stuff's falling out, and we finally find the Band-Aids. So they do work. So there you go. The dollar stores, if you get creative, you can find some good deals. I need to ask really quickly before we get to number 3. So my wife started talking about a canner yesterday. I don't know which one of y'all got to her on Facebook. Somebody got to her, son. If we were to get a canner, what brand should we get? Because I have no idea. I don't know anything about the canning. We've helped with canning green beans, but that's pretty much the extent of it. So if y'all can drop it in the comments, I'll catch it in a little while, okay? And then I'll pass it on to her. Something that's not going to blow the house up, all right, if she wants to get into pressure canning. I suggested dry canning, and she's like, no, if we're going to get one, we need to know how to do it the right way. Number 3, and don't y'all clown me for this one, please. Yard sales, all right? Because I'm cheap. I love yard sales. I'm into 80s stuff, especially the older 80s video games. So if I see any kind of electronics, tools, prepping stuff as I'm driving by, I will straight lock the hoopty up in the road, and I will get out. It doesn't matter if my wife gets out or not. I'm getting out. I'm going through. I'm digging through. But she is more drawn for some reason to clothes. Her obsession right now is buying clothes for, if y'all know Outlaw Prepper Jack, her uncle, his son, his little boy. She loves buying the little boy stuff. So when we see clothes, I'll pull over like an old man and I'm just sitting in the car. If I don't see something that appeals to me, I'll just sit in the car. I'm that kind of guy. But yard sales, if you hit the right one, I don't know how it works in the rest of the world, but here, where I'm at in North Carolina, you can actually buy unloaded shotguns and stuff like that at yard sales. Freedom seeds, you're going to pay for them if you see them, but you can get boomsticks and stuff like that. Camping gear, grills. I mean, yard sales are just fun, right? Number 4, flea markets. Love a flea market. A flea market is like Disneyland for cheapskates. You know you're going to find something, you just don't know what it is, right? I have found some really cool stuff at flea markets. I actually have a military issue toboggan that I'm going to break out this winter when it's snowing that I got at a flea market. I found, machetes. I found tools, things of this nature. And also here at the flea markets, at least for now, you can get boomsticks and stuff like that, okay? Number 5, and this is a really under the radar piece of advice, so y'all get your listening ears on, as my wife does it, at school. Get them on, son. Birthdays and holidays. I will hear people say in chat, not here so much, but in other chats, saying, I wish I could afford to prep like this or like this. I know this sounds shady, but use your birthdays and use things like Christmas. And, when your spouse says, hey, what do you want for Christmas? If you need a bug out bag, say, man, I would really like to have a bug out bag, or some survival food. Extended family gives you money for Christmas, or they ask you what you might be interested in, and you wanting a new tent, let them know. You never know. You might get lucky. You might get fruitcake. Who knows? But try it. Okay? And again, not to sound shady, but if they're going to spend money on you anyway, and you're interested in prepping, and that's your thing, try and get some prepping gear and stuff like that, okay? So anyway, that's my 5. Joan T says, I'd love to have a freeze dryer. So would I, Joan. They're expensive. Everybody I talk to says they're well worth it. My one thing with the freeze dryers, like the harvest rates and things, would be how long do they last? If I wore it out in a year and a half, 2 years, I would probably cry real tears because they cost so much money. It would have to last a long time. James Jenkins, love fruit cake. I can eat it. It's not my favorite. It's like the Spam of Christmas desserts. I have Swamp Bottom Living. I have a dehydrator. This is actually how the whole canning thing came up yesterday. I told my wife, I said, I'm digging the dehydrator out in the next week. I'm going to do some jerky up. I get my seasoning and stuff at Rural King, so I got to get to Rural King and get some. But I don't know what I'm going to do. Probably steak jerky. And then we got onto like the vacuum sealers and stuff. And then she says, I've been seeing a lot of stuff on the Prepper Nation page, wherever that's at, I guess Facebook, about canning. And then she started asking about canning and, which canner to get. And I'm like, honey, I don't know. I really don't. Spam jerky. Robert says, John, do some spam jerky. I don't know about that. Robert, maybe to take camping next time, to give the deadbeats that go with me that bring nothing, I'll say here's some jerky. But I don't know. It seems like it wouldn't even be worth the cleanup when you got done. American Trucker, I don't love the fruit cakes in California. Gigi, I want a vacuum sealer. Yeah, I think I'm going to try and convince my wife to get that before she gets the canner for the jerky. I ain't got an alibi. If I do the jerky, I can seal it up, and it'll last a while. But even there, we're probably just going to pick up one that's $100 or so. I'm sure they're a lot more expensive than that. But again, cheapskate. So there you go. Robert says the deadbeats. Yeah. Jack and Caveman James. Jack at least helps around camp, and he knows what he's doing. He's a great fisherman, actually. He'll collect firewood. And just throwing this blanket statement out there. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke pot or anything like that, but Caveman does. It's legal now where he lives. They legalized it in Virginia, and that's literally all he does. Like, if we bug out, I'm leaving him behind at this point. He can't even keep a fire going. We'll get the fire started, and then Caveman, he can't even feed the wood to the fire. And he shows up with literally nothing. So, K. Marie, how you doing, Kendra? Jennifer Cruz, that's sad. And James is one of the friends I'm always talking about where I've actually sat down with him. Jennifer Cruz, great live stream, by the way, last night. I only caught the last 10 minutes because I didn't get a notification, and I saw it randomly show up in the feed. Otherwise, I would have been there sooner. But he's one of the people that I've sat down with, and I'm like, I've tried to explain the concept of prepping. I'm like, James, his mom's like a second mom to me, and she's up there in age, and I'm like, if something happens, how are you going to take care of her? How are you going to provide for her? James is the kind of person that it's maddening because he'll admit that prepping is important. Oh yeah, that stuff's important. But then when you go over there, he'll have a case of root beer and a bag of Cheetos and literally nothing else to eat in the house. So he has no plan. He will not listen to logic. I'm like, James, you don't have to spend $10,000 on prepping stuff. Just get a little bit set aside. Oh, I will, man, I will. And he never does. So we all know him, right? Double D Homestead. Yeah, it's way too early for this. Double D Homestead. Don't overlook Goodwill type stores. Found a large Miro pressure canner for $2 and saw a vacuum sealer the other day. Wow. That would be like finding the white whale, for $2. My problem is, and I'll level with y'all. My problem is if it doesn't say pressure canner on the front, I probably wouldn't even recognize it. I could recognize, the vacuum sealer, but when we did the beans, like when we were canning beans and stuff with my wife's grandparents, I was the guy that snapped the beans for like 2 hours straight. So that's my, when it comes to canning, that's my level of expertise. My wife helped with the canning a little, but no, I was just like, which isn't bad for the first 10 minutes, and then it kind of sucks after that. Susan said, find flats before you get a canner. Canner isn't any good without flats. I have no idea what that means, ma'am. You have to act like you're talking to an infant when it comes to canning here. I mean, explain it really, really basic to me, please. Julie, watch pressure canner reviews on YouTube. I will definitely do that. I also thought about emailing Rudy at Alaska Prepper, because I know that's like one of his specialties. He's really good on that. Lids, John. Okay, Jen. Thank you. That makes sense. I've seen them in the stores where they have the screw down lids and then the flat lids on top. I didn't know they were called flats. Forrest, I'm here now. Please hold your applause. Well, it'll be hard to do, Forrest, but we'll try. We'll try. No China lids, Missy. There's one particular brand that I see all over the place. Is it Ball? I'm thinking. Usually in a cardboard box with green on it. That's what I normally see here. Yeah, Ball. So is that the brand to get then, Ball? Ball it is, Matt says. Ball and care. Kay Marie, do you do any canning by any chance? I don't think we've ever had that discussion. Yes, I do. Wow. Wow. We're actually talking about it. I have no interest in it, but my wife, somebody got to her on YouTube, on I guess Facebook, or she saw a bunch of canning posts and things, and now she's dead set that she wants some sort of a canner that's not going to blow the house up. And she came to me for advice on it, Kendra, and I'm like, no, I don't know anything about it. Golden Harvest. Bruno's trying to offer his advice on the canning stuff, apparently. she got zucked. Yeah, I don't like Facebook. Social media, for the most part, like the Twitter and stuff like that, it's all toxic now. But she talks to all of her friends from work, and some family members on Facebook, and then every so often the Prepper Nation page will hit where somebody posts something. And it's funny because sometimes she'll skip it, and then sometimes she'll be on her phone. She's always on her phone, not the computer. She'll come jogging through the house and she's like, John, did you know that Biden's up to this? I'm like, yes, honey. Yes, I know he's up to this. Lies and toxic drama. Julie said, Twitter's like a liberal echo chamber now. I don't even know if there are any conservatives over there. I think I'm the last one. Like that movie Wall-E. I'm just over there trying to clean up the trash. For you Disney lovers. Well, first, Waffen, before we go, I'm glad to see you in here again, and we're going to be praying for you. We had several people ask about you, and the moderators and myself, we were talking, and we just didn't have an update. So I'm very glad to see you in here this morning. Definitely no China lids. All right, folks, I've got to go 15 seconds early this morning and refill the coffee. But just remember, it's getting colder, and the toboggan will be out very shortly, and you guys will get sick and tired of seeing it, okay? God bless y'all for being here. Again, quickly, Jennifer Cruz has a great channel. I only caught 10 minutes of live stream, but it's a faith-based channel. Y'all go check it out. Our own Jennifer Cruz, and God bless.